Hello everyone and welcome to Prof. Dan Tutorials. In today's video, we are diving into an in-depth analysis of the fiscal year 2024 USCIS data for employment-based immigration petitions, specifically forms I-140 for EB1, EB2 NIW, and EB3 categories. For those of you following this YouTube channel, you will recall that the last data analysis was done in September 2024. So this present one released December 2024 is now the latest one, which is based on the latest data released by credible sources USCIS. If you are a self-petitioner aiming for a green card, this information is for you. In today's video, we're going to explore approval, denial, and pending trends over fiscal quarters. Compare these also with the fiscal year 2023, and we're going to break down further what this means for countries like India, China, Nigeria, and more. This video is meant to just simplify the USCIS data and show you how to make sense of the trends so you can stay prepared and informed. And please take note, as always, this content is educational and informational, and it's not to be substituted for professional advice. Therefore, stay tuned to the end to learn how to check, all these data and make sense of them, and of course, make informed decisions about your petition. If this is your first time, please subscribe, like, share, and make comments. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for supporting this channel all this while. Still make sure you like, comment, and share with your loved ones. So the very first thing I'm going to do is, again, for the sake of those who do not really understand the United States fiscal year quarter. So I'm just going to explain that briefly. For those of you who reside in the US and you know this, you can just, fast forward to the next slide. Now, basically, the US government fiscal year, or what we say the financial year, runs from October 1st to September 30th of the following year. For example, fiscal year 2024 starts on October 1st, 2023 and ends on September 30th, 2024. So if now we are in December 2024, that means we are presently in the first quarter of 2025. That's how it works. Now, this breakdown is quite important to understand, especially when you are looking at US immigration and visa processing data, as things like visa allocations within a given fiscal year, approvals, things like that, they are often reported based on these quarters. So now, let's break down the quarters. Like I said, when you look at the screen, you see that the first quarter runs from October 1st to December 31st. The second quarter runs from January 1st to March 31st. The third quarter from April 1st to June 30th. And the fourth quarter from July 1st to September 30th, covering July, August, and September. So each of these quarters covers 3 months. Then 3 times 4, 12 months in a year, in a given fiscal year. Quickly, let's take a look at this slide. And what I present here is the Form I-140 immigration petitions receipts. Those petitions that were received by USCIS for quarter 4, fiscal year 2024. So what do we have? There are many countries' data, but on this slide, I've only presented that of the top 10 countries, as you can see, from India through Nigeria, and finally to Vietnam. On this table, you see only three categories listed out here, which involves the EB1, that's for the extraordinary ability. Recall that EB itself has three different categories, the EB11, EB12, and the EB3. The EB2 also records has two categories, the EB21, those filed by the complaints, and the EB2 NIW, those filed by self-petitioners. Then we have the skilled worker EB3 category. So from this, the only important thing we can infer from this data is that when we look at it, we see that EB2, the NIW category, has the highest number of receipts overall, with 18,613 overall. And when we look across the countries, we can also see that the highest petitioners under this EB2 NIW are from China, followed by India. Now we can see countries like Brazil, then Nigeria. Another thing we can notice here is that EB2 NIW, yes, is the most popular category across all these countries, EB2 NIW, except for one country, which is Philippines. When we look at Philippines, that's not the case. Philippines is exceptional. They actually have the highest category of skilled worker under the EB3 category, with 2,732 compared to, other countries. And going to the next slides, we can see comparison of this petition by country and category, again for EB1, 2, and 3. And for each country, what I've tried to do here is to show how they compare across. And well, some things we can draw from this is the same as the previous table. We can see that India and China are the largest contributors across all categories, especially for the EB2 NIW and the EB11, while the Philippines retain the highest under the EB3 categories. We can also infer that countries like Vietnam, Mexico, and South Korea have smaller overall contributions, but still, they still show notable representation in the EB2 NIW categories. And of course, countries from Asian continent like the Indian, China, and the Philippines dominates in absolute numbers across all categories. Okay, so let's see what we have next on the next slide. This slide shows the number of approvers, again for Q4 fiscal year 2024. Take a look at the table. You can pause the video, just take a look at the table, look at the numbers, and let's see how they all play. From this also, we can infer one or two things. The EB2 NIW category actually has the highest total approval of 5,396. EB2 NIW has the highest, followed by that of the skilled worker EB3, and then we have the EB1. We can also see that the Philippines dominates the skilled workers category in terms of their approval, also with 1,821 approvals, which is significantly higher than what they had in the EB1 category 5 and the EB2 NIW 15. Let's take a look at Nigeria, an African country. we can see that there is also significant approval in EB2 NIW, 408. When you compare that to skilled workers, 213, and that of EB1 approval, 169. Now, overall, what we can see is that Asian countries, India, China, Philippines, Korea, South Korea, I mean, and Vietnam, they all dominate approvals overall. And that reflects their global workforce contributions to the United States. And we can also still infer that an African country like Nigeria is also increasingly represented in both I-skill, EB2 NIW, and the skilled worker category, EB3. For Latin American countries like Brazil and Mexico, well, we can see that, well, they have diverse but smaller, contributions compared to Asian countries. Having said that, take a look at, the chart as well. When you look at this chart, it provides just a holistic view of how the different categories, contribute to each country's total approvals. And again, we can see the dominant ones, the China, the India, across the I-skill categories, EB1 and the EB2 NIW. Okay, I think that's about that for this chart. Number of approvals, which is really impressive. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is, let's be more specific. And this time around, what I've done here in this chart is to make you visualize the number of Form I-140, that's immigrant petition for alien worker petitions, in terms of the total approved and denied petitions from 2014 to 2024. Now, this is what I've tried to do. When you look at the left y-axis, you will see the approval petitions. Try and look at the scale is in 25,000s. And when you look at the right axis, you will see the denied petitions, which are scaled in thousands, in 2000s. You can see that by the red symbol, the approval shown by the blue symbol. If we look at this generally again, I just did this for us to have a view of how things has been in the past years up until now. And when you look at the blue, the number of approvals, we can also see that there has really been a consistent upward trend from 2014 up until 2024. And we can also see where the peaks were. The peak were at 2021 and 2023. We can see the peak. And I think 2021, that's going to be like COVID period. We could see between 2020 and 2021, there are more approved petitions. Then it's decreased a bit to 2022. It's increased a bit to 2023. And it has decreased a bit as far as 2024 is concerned. And if we look at the deniers as well, if you look at the denial trend by the red color starting from 2014, you can also infer the denial rate is also increasing across the year from 2014 to 2019. Before the denial rate decreased from 2019 to 2020, more or less like levels to 2021, increase again to 2022, increase again to 2023, denial rates increasing. Well, you would say, what happens in 2024? From 2023 to 2024, the denial rates decrease. I would say, well, based on the present available data, that's what it shows. But in the next slide, I will show us that there are still many pending cases that has not yet been attended to maybe approval, request for evidence, or denial for 2024. And that might have been the reason why we Well, we could not really say it's decreased. Perhaps it will still increase when we look at all the pending cases. Okay, I hope that makes sense a bit. Let's take a look at something here. So what I try to do here again is this is also the number from I-140 petitions received and the current status for all countries. What I've just tried to do is to compare 2023 and that of 2024, which are current here as of the time of analyzing this data. Now, one thing I want us to look at is that in 2023, shown by the blue color code, the total number of Form I-140 petitions received was 189,031. And out of that number, 14,922 petitions were denied. And so I calculated that when you do that, it results in a denial rate of 7.89%. One could say, when you analyze that, we could say nearly about 8 out of every 100 petitions submitted in 2023 were denied. About 92 out of 100 were approved. That's a good one. Let's go to 2024, shown by the green color code. We'll see that, take notes, that the total number of petitions received increased to 228,266. You can now see more reasons why we have backlogs, why there's retrogression, because the number keeps increasing. Imagine from 189,031 in 2023 to 228,266 in 2024. And that is not all, because there are still a significant number of petitions that are still pending in 2024. So we can say, well, for now, with the present data we are using, that the number of denied petitions dropped, to 8,289. And that's about 3.63%, which I'm showing you on the screen here for 2024. However, one thing we should be clear of is that as of the time this data was released by USCIS, there are still 92,027 petitions still pending for 2024. If we add that to the number of petitions received, about 228,266, we could see that that's more than 300,000 petitions, which is far more higher than the allocated, numbers of visa available for employment-based category overall in any given fiscal year. So this is where we see the issue of retrogression and again backlogs. So for those of you who have received approval, that's why it appears especially for the EB2 NIW, that's why it appears like your date is not current, you can't do anything yet, not until your priority date becomes current. That's because there are so many number of increasing queue, people on the queue. Hopefully it keeps moving gradually. So what I'm going to show you next in the next slide is I try to be specific, more specific to one country, which again, I'm not being biased. That's my home country, Nigeria. So I'm trying to go in depth into Nigerian data so we can see or infer one or two things. Nigerians, my Niger people, how are they? All right, so this part is for you. And of course, every other country can watch these slides just again to understand what's going on. Nigeria, let's see what's happening. A comparison between the 2023 fiscal year and 2024. Here we have the full quarter 1 to 4. In the last data analysis video in September, we only made the comparison with 2024 quarter 1 to 3 because that was the data available then. So let's take a look at this table quickly. And only 2 categories of employment based I've analyzed here. And that's for the first, let's look at EB1A or EB1. And why is that? Recall that most of my videos are directed at self-petitioners. For all this employment-based category, you can only self-petition for two categories. And that's the EB1A, alien with extraordinary ability, or the EB2 NIW, national interest waiver. So for the EB1A, for Nigerian applicants, the number of approved cases in 2023 was 119. Let's see, in 2024, what happens? A very big jump to 413. That is more than doubled, right? Now, let's see, for all the EB1 categories, recall there are 3. The EB1, you can self-petition. The EB1, you can't. Those are for like professors. And for EB1, you can self-petition. Complaints, association organizations must be the one to do the petition for EB1 and EB1. Although for all the EB1 combined, for Nigeria again, let's see what we have. Number of approval, 184 in 2023 fiscal year. 462 approved cases for 2024 fiscal year. That's also a huge increase. But then, what about denied numbers, denied petitions? We can see 98 denied in 2023 compared to 211 denied in 2024. It doesn't stop there. Recall that there are still pending cases. And what can bring about pending cases could be that maybe, for example, it's not been attended to due to one factor or the other, or let's say maybe the petition has been denied, then maybe it's been appealed, something like that. So it's still pending. We have 2023 pending cases, still 18. And in 2024, we still have 362 cases still pending, whether it's been sent for appeal or it's not been approved yet, it's still under consideration, things like that, which is also very high numbers. And then let's look at EB2 NIW, professionals with advanced degrees. If we look at the same trend from what I analyzed out from USCIS data, we can also see approved number of cases in 2023, 2,173. That is huge. That's massive, right? And for 2024, the approved number of EB2 NIW is 1,667. One would wonder what's happening. That's reduced compared to year 2023. Don't let us judge that yet. Let's look at the number of denied cases so far. The number of denied cases so far in 2023, was 387, but in 2024, increased to 543. That's also huge. It doesn't stop there. Let's look at pending. So for 2023, pending cases is still 83. And for 2024, pending cases is 2,569. That is massive. So when you calculate the approval for 2024 so far and add it to the pending cases, 2,569. Then you see that that gives us about 4,236. So there are still going to be more approved cases than the 1,667 we are seeing, and perhaps more denied cases, which we don't hope for. Right? So that's this, that's that, and that's how we can see a country like Nigeria faring in these immigration visa categories. And well, I'm not going to spend much time here. What I've just done, the calculation behind the scene about the approval rates for 2023 and 2024 for the EB1 category. And then we have that of the EB2 category as well. What we can say again for EB2 NIW, the approval rate for EB2 NIW declined in 2024, which draws from about 84.92% to 75.44%. Based on the present available data, however, we should recall that there are still many pending cases. So this is still going to change. And before we finish for today, the top 5 countries for Form I-140 still remains the same. India, China, Philippines, Brazil, and Nigeria. So that will be it for today. Thank you for watching to the end. If you find it informative enough, educating enough, share it with your loved ones, share it with people who will find it, meaningful to them. We have many people who have been approved. They don't know yet when their priority date is going to be current. So this can also be of help to them. Thumbs up, and see you all again in another video. I have many surprises for you all in 2025. Again, just to make these EB2 NIW, EB1A easier for self-petitioners. We have self-petitioners who do not have the financial resources, to consult immigration lawyers, accredited representatives, and the likes in helping them with their petition. And that's one thing Prof. Dan Tutorials is trying to do, to make sure the information is out there to assist you all. So if you are writing your petition, still check some of the content on the YouTube videos under different playlists, and you can help yourself out. And that'll be it for today's video. And I will see you all again in another one. Take care and bye-bye.